Hello everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to Satisfactory. It's been quite some time. But yeah, I have spent quite a bit of time working on my factory. So this is the second phase, as I mentioned in last video. So there will be two more phases. So the first phase was uranium rod setup, which was my last video. So this video is regarding the plutonium rod setup. The next video will be fixonium rods, and the video after that is like the final factory. So yeah, over here now, in my last video I did say that the nuclear power plant setup was not final, but this is the final part, like at least the way it looks, right? So I did want it to look sort of like a Roman gladiatorial style, so it sort of looks that way. You know, it has to be sort of like a semicircle or something like that, but it's fine. This works. So yeah, but I really like this. So the way this works is, so the uranium rods goes to the left side. All these power plants are uranium rods. Uranium waste comes here and it comes there. Now plutonium rod goes on the right, goes all to all these nuclear plants. Uranium waste comes back, and then fixonium rod goes there. It's not plutonium rods again. This is fixonium rod. Fixonium rod goes all the way at the back and it gets used up. There is zero waste. So that's how the setup is. Pretty nice. After I make it a lot more like walkable and stuff like that, beautify this, it will look so much better. But yeah, but this is the idea behind this. Now let's come back to the crux of this video, which is the plutonium rod setup. So today I'll be just going over that. By the way, I'm following the spreadsheet that I made, the automated spreadsheet, which I shared in one of the Google Drives in one of the previous videos. So if you want that, please feel free to check out. You can save a copy for your own. All you need to do is input the uranium that you have, and you will get like the final par that you can pull. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using like around 660 uranium, and I'm getting somewhere around 180,000 megawatts power, because it's perfectly optimized. There is zero waste, nothing to worry. So all I do is input uranium in that spreadsheet, and it'll give me everything, like the amount, every single intermediate factory recipe used, etc. So feel free to check that out if you need. Now let's talk about the plutonium rod setup. So in my last video we were making 360 uranium waste, because I was making 7.2 uranium fuel rods, which goes into that nuclear power plant, and I'll be getting 360 uranium waste. Now that 360 uranium waste needs to get used up and needs to get converted to non-fissile uranium, which is done over here. So as we can see, this makes non-fissile uranium. This takes the uranium waste, bit of uranium, along with nitric acid and sulfuric acid, and gives me non-fissile uranium. Now I have 360 uranium waste, which means if I have to use up all 360 of this, I will need 1440 non-fissile uranium. I will make 1440. So all these blenders over here, including these four, is making non-fissile uranium. All these, every single one of these is just using up the uranium waste and making it. So yeah, so this entire part is making that. Now to make non-fissile uranium and uranium waste, sure, I mean, you'll get that. Nitric acid and sulfuric acid, though, you have to make that. So this one is making sulfuric acid, which is sulfur and water. So it's just raw resource, overclocked once, perfect. That is these 5 refineries. Then for nitric acid, it's a bit more complicated. You need nitrogen, water, and iron plate. Nitrogen and water is raw resource, fine. Iron plate, you have to make that again with iron ingots to iron plate. Iron ingots, you have to make it again with pure iron ingot recipe. So yeah, my actual recipe is over there, but all of these starting things need to be done. And then finally I'll get non-fissile uranium. But this is just 1 out of 4, part 1 out of 4 in the plutonium fuel rod setup. This non-fissile uranium goes into making encased plutonium cells. So this encased plutonium cells uses up all the non-fissile uranium and aluminum casing. By the way, I am bringing aluminum casing as a raw resource because I have a separate factory for that. Now I have overclocked it twice because I don't want to build hundreds of these. So I have just overclocked it twice. And I need to use up 1440, which means I need 10 of these, because if I have 10 of these, I'll use 1500 non-fissile uranium and I'll make 200 encased plutonium cell, right? Technically speaking, I'll be making 192 to be exact, but yeah. So all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like all these 10 is basically making encased plutonium cells. Now this encased plutonium cell goes into making plutonium fuel rods, which is over here. So this plutonium fuel rod, each of these takes 20 encased plutonium cells and 1 pressure conversion cube. So each of these is making 20, so it's like 1:1. So this output just goes into that. And there is like 10 of these. So I'm making like 10 plutonium fuel rods. Again, to be very exact, it's it's 9.6, I think. Yeah, it's 9.6 fuel rods, but plutonium fuel rods that I'm making with the exact input that I get, because it's like 192, right? The encased plutonium cells. So with that, I'll be making 9.6 plutonium fuel rods. But the much more interesting part is this one, pressure conversion cubes. That is being made over here. But that needs fused modular frames and radio control units. These are just something that I fear a lot. Fortunately, I have blueprints to make each of these. Like this makes the fused modular frames. So quite easy. I just put everything down, like 8 of these blueprints down, and I'm done. Similarly, I have this blueprint which makes radio control units. So I have put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these down, and I'm done. So I basically, how much ever I needed, I just put in a bit more than that, so that everything is running at 100% efficiency. So making this part was the easy part because I already had the blueprint. The most difficult part for this is bringing in the raw resource. Oh my god. It needs so many different things. Like if I go to this blueprint, the modular frames, it needs iron ore, limestone, aluminum casing, and nitrogen. Radio control unit, this needs quartz, plastic, rubber, tritium, and aluminum. Basically, you are bringing every single raw resource possible into this, and then it'll work. But yeah, like when I saw the recipe, I was like, building the factory is not the problem. Bringing in raw resources is a problem. That's what I fear. So yeah, but anyway, so that's for future me problem, not for right now problem. So yeah, so this is pressure conversion cubes, which makes into plutonium fuel rods, and I'll get like 9.6 plutonium fuel rods, which goes into this nuclear setup. And then I'll be getting the plutonium waste. By the way, I'll only get 96 waste. So now waste is a lot less, right? Slowly waste gets reduced. Uranium waste is like 360, plutonium waste is like 96 that I get, and then there is no fixonium waste. So that's how the nuclear setup is in this game. So yeah, so I'll get 96 plutonium waste, which will feed into the next floor, which I'll build on top of this, which I have already built, by the way, because I'm already ahead in my actual playthrough. But yeah, so which will go to the next floor, which will be the fixonium factory, which will use up all the plutonium waste and will make the fixonium rods. But yeah, so this is the plutonium fuel rod setup. So uranium rods was a lot simpler. I don't think it was complex at all. It was very simple. There was like simple machines. It's done small. Plutonium, lot more complicated, lot more resources to bring. Fixonium rod, by the way, is it needs like probably 2 to 3 floors. I am not able to fit it in a single floor. it's that complicated. Just making a single part took me a single entire floor to build that. So it's very, very complicated. It needs so many particle accelerators and stuff. It even needs SAM ore, by the way. So yeah, lot of stuff. So yeah, so this is my plutonium fuel rod setup and plutonium fuel rod factory. A very simple short explanation regarding this. Oh yeah, I completely forgot on the most important part. So when I make this non-fissile uranium, there is this water output. I was thinking of using that water output as an input to nitric acid and also this iron. But the reason I did not do that is because it has huge problems or issues which I can have in the future. The very first thing that I need to do is I need to jumpstart the factory at the very beginning, because well, the first time that I start the factory, there will not be any output from non-fissile uranium, so there won't be water over there, which means this will not have water. So I will have to bring in water from outside, jumpstart this, get everything running. Once water starts flowing from there to in here, then I'll stop the input of water and it will be self-sufficient in an ideal scenario. Now let's assume something wrong happens, something backs up, and that has backed up now. Now that water has not exited the system, so that will not run. So there is no non-fissile uranium. Without non-fissile uranium, nothing after that will run. But this will never run because this water will never get consumed, because this iron is never getting consumed, because this iron is never happening, because this has backed up. So unless you come here, go into the pipe which brings in water, flush it out so that the water starts flowing in and jump start it again, that's how you need to jump start it back, like if something goes wrong. Which means the pipe that you use to jump start it, you cannot get rid of it. You have to keep it permanently. You'll just have to put in a valve and close it, by the way. So there are so many complications with that. Yes, it's a much more sophisticated and complete solution, but it's very complicated. I did not want to bother with that. So what I am doing is I'm taking that water, making it into concrete, putting it into awesome thing. That's it. I am not worrying about anything else. I'll just take it from there, put it into this, put it into that, I'm done with that. Right? But in your factories, if you do want to make it much more complete factory, much more sophisticated factory, you can definitely do that. Take that water, use valves, by the way, to put in proper direction of flow of water, put that water input into nitric acid and also into this, and bring in more water. I don't think that can, how much water is that, by the way, this thing? 40 water. Okay, this that can sustain the entire nitric acid and this. So yeah, so that can actually sustain all of this, and you will need more to get it out of the system and you'll need awesome zinc. But yeah, but you can definitely get that. It's a much more sophisticated and complete solution. So yeah, so that's my awesome zinc setup over there. So with that, this is my plutonium fuel rods, and yeah, see you guys in my next video. Bye.